Thanks, John. Thanks, Chris. I've pretty much got a bit of an open book here. There's nothing specifically that John's asked me to contribute to this particular sort of formal forum, but he used the concept about agent of the future, which was a piece that that I wrote recently in one of the industry journals. So, for lack of any other guidance, I think we'll probably start there. And I think, firstly, the only perspective and contribution I can give to this forum and to this particular issue is one as a practicing real estate agent and a business owner, of which I've been for the last 22 years. So please just remember, this is my perspective and my perspective only. This is how I see it. And I think today, speaking in this forum is reasonably relevant because, the issues that I see the industry are trying to deal with today are probably what we started looking at in 2010 as a business. And I can certainly say that this has been a priority for us as a business ever since. And I just want to acknowledge John. One of the reasons why I do come to this today is probably to support John, who I think does an admirable job in really trying to help the industry, because it's no small feat. So the agent of the future is very difficult for me to actually delve into any detail in 15 minutes, but I'm going to sort of skim across the top and probably just try and identify and highlight why this idea and this concept that we need to be considering of the future as an industry is so important. And perhaps if I can just use the 15 minutes maybe to dig a little bit deeper in terms of why this is an important question. I think probably from my observations since 2010, the industry from my observations have largely ignored things. And if I consider what we were considering in 2010, 2011, those challenges are absolutely with us today. I think that all of us know what they are, and I think that in terms of why this is such an important, sort of topic for us is because at some point in time, the industry, and whether that be an agent or a business, I think firstly just has to accept that rather than ignore it, and they need to accept it rather than dismiss it. So I think the first thing is that the increased competition, and I think it's important we note, it's actually irrelevant whether they're good, bad or indifferent. The reality is they're there, they're going to be part of our ecosystem, and they're going to keep coming. We should not be spending time and energy on deciding which one's good and which one's not, because the reality is that's our ecosystem today, that's the world we live in, and that's the world outside real estate as well, and we have to accept that. The second thing is we have to accept that consumer expectations and behaviours are changing, and I think probably the most important thing, which I find extraordinary that we haven't accepted this, is the decline for fee-for-service is serious, absolutely serious. I addressed this as a business owner in 2010, and I remember distinctively for 3 years people laughed at me. And I have, and we as a business have some views about where that's going, based on the industry and the legacy of the issues that we have in front of us today. And they're real. They're real. I see the issue that ultimately isn't addressed properly is that the industry continues to look at that as an individual and deprioritises what that means for a business. And I think what's very important, Chris mentioned today, that is, I think, one of the greatest challenges we have in front of us is at a business level, is what the declining in fee-for-service does for our lack of investment opportunity within our businesses and within the industry. As a result of the last 4 years, if I consider those challenges, this is what I observe mostly. This is what I see as an industry. I see confusion, is what I see. I see confusion. The reason why I see confusion is because we're still doing the same thing we did when I started. When we're still doing the same thing we're doing, it means we actually are confused. Now, when I think confusion, this is where I see we jump around a lot on. We jump around between, do we add value? And the answer is, of course we do. Or has the interpretation changed? And I think we've spent too much time on the top one. Because at the end of the day, it's not a criticism, we do add value. We've got to stop trying to compare ourselves to new entry, new service providers, other agents, new models. The reality is they're here. So let's just concentrate on ourselves not other people. And this is where a lot of the time and energy is going around without any real meaningful solutions. I think why we find this confusing is we only look within our industry. We're not looking outside our industry. We're not looking at the world and society where all this sort of stuff is going on around us. And the reason why it's going on around us is because everyone's perception about value is changing all the time. And all we're doing is staying straight in the middle, holding our ground and saying, well, we're real estate agents. What we need to do, and this is what we need to do as a business, and this will ultimately inform what agents can and can't do, is you have to reimagine what real estate agency is. That's where it's got to start. Today's not the platform and forum to dig into that because we'd be here for 4 hours, but that's where it's got to start. We have to reimagine what that is. So why have we got this issue? We've got this issue and we're stuck, in my view, my personal view, because real estate businesses are designed to support strategies and practices of individuals. That's how our system, our framework and our industry is set up. And in my humble opinion, that's the challenge and that's the blockage that we actually have. And until we're prepared to break that apart and consider what the opportunities are outside that, I think we're going to have some challenges. Now, there's no doubt that individuals definitely add value as an agent. They do. Not questioning that. But their value is limited. It's limited. That value was very pronounced and very strong 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's quite a bit different now. It doesn't mean that we can't add value to vendors, but we need to be thinking more. We need to be thinking with more perspective, more latitude, and more creativity. This is what we have ignored. This is what we've had ignored. And let's not go around all the sort of evidence and symptoms about why this is an issue. This is an issue, it's been an issue, and it's an issue today. Now, what we've done, knowingly, and I think John said quite rightly, we are our own worst enemies. We can blame nobody but ourselves. And that's important because if we don't accept that, we can't move forward with different solutions. We can't. Because the reality of the situation is we deprioritise and frankly, as an industry, we ignore buyers. Not a criticism, an observation. We do. But also, it's sort of where the opportunity exists, in my view. And that's where the opportunity exists for the industry. It's an opportunity at a business level, and only when it starts at a business level can individuals actually realise the opportunity that that's going to create. This is as a result of ignoring customers and as a result of the reality of the challenges that we have in front of us, and this is partly due to, this is what the culture of the real estate industry is today. It's all about vendor domination. And we as an industry have created that. We've done that. Can't blame anyone else. That's what we've created. And this is important because when you bring a new breed of real estate agents into your business, that's the message. And it's the message in the North Shore, it's the message in the eastern suburbs, it's the message in the Shire, it's the message in Maitland, it's the message everywhere. Because that's how we're rewarded and that's how we measure success. All of us, me included. And I'm saying this because in part, we have created this. No one else. We do. And unless we're prepared to look at that in the face and try and change that, my experience is the same thing's going to keep happening. Customer dissatisfaction. I do accept when I raise that, and I can certainly say from my own experiences as a business owner and somebody who wanted to address this within my particular business, that the concept and the shift or the reprioritization is really easy to say. It's really easy actually to identify. What's very difficult is actually changing it. Very, very, very difficult. And I say that because for us, as a business, we identified this as being a competitive advantage 5 years ago. And we still see this as our single greatest opportunity as a business within the real estate ecosystem, purely because the rest of the industry ignores it. The rest of the industry ignores it, and the rest of the businesses that we compete with typically ignore it as well. And I say that with some sympathy because change is hard. And I'm certainly not saying we've worked it out and we know the answer, but I can certainly say this is a priority for our organisation. Because if we don't deal with this, we won't survive. We simply won't survive. And I'm saying that too because we're talking about this from a business level, not an agent's level. If you leave it up to the agents, they ain't changing nothing because it's all about them. It's all about them. And why would they change? I wouldn't. If you're going to pay me this, why would I change? This is the challenge we've got, and this is the challenge I think has to start at a business level. So what did we do as a business? And I can certainly say with experience, these were two things that I didn't have any experience with, but it was pretty simple. It was pretty simple. These were the decisions that we had to make. We had to introduce an idea about leadership culture, which in my experience was very weak, if not non-existent within the industry. And we had to actually say we are going to commit to people development and people mentorship. Easy to say, hard to do, because what do you need in order to do that? You need to invest. You need to invest yourself and you need to invest financially. And that's a very challenging thing for a real estate business to do if the fees are going down. Very, very, very difficult. Because the expectations of the society out there is we want more. And the real estate industry aren't providing it. So are we getting the best people? No, we're not. But this is important because these are the responsibilities at a business level within this industry. Otherwise, we will not succeed. Once we made those decisions, this is what we decided we wanted to do. We decided that our best chance of success, being competitive and actually staying alive, was to work as a collective and work as a group, not as individuals. Now that was our decision, and that remains our decision today, and that is in our view what we need to do in order to propel ourselves into a strong position into the future. It's also important because what we've done is we've identified the value of our ecosystem. Now the value of our ecosystem also includes buyers. And in fact, buyers are the main elements to our ecosystem, not vendors. The challenge, you have to educate and you have to develop people to understand, believe and deliver it. Very easy to say, very difficult to do. Because you've got the whole of the industry, the whole ethos and legacy of the industry, certainly since I've known it, who send the exact opposite message. The exact opposite message. So you wonder why real estate agents are confused. They're very confused. And when they're confused, what's the experience like for a consumer? Not so good. And that's actually, from a real estate agent, from a business owner, that's what I see every single day. And interestingly, it's unfair to say that real estate agents are deceitful, untrustworthy. They're not. They just don't know what they're doing. And when you don't know what you're doing, what do? You just reach out and say whatever you can. And I feel sorry for them. Because businesses are not giving them the education and the development, the guidance and direction about where they need to be. And I can certainly say, most people that I meet in real estate, the first thing they say is, I want to be successful and I want to do it ethically. And in real estate they say, not possible. That is the message. They say it's not possible. I hear it all the time, I still hear it. This is what is happening at a business level, a ground roots level, and this is the issue, because you can bring all the rules around if you want. If they don't have the environment, the guidance and the development, they're never going to be able to do it. So I don't think this is a real estate issue. This is well beyond the industry. This is generally how people learn. And this is what we do as a business. We've prioritised this because this is going to be, in our view, our competitive advantage. If you look at that a little bit further, and when I said that there is this idea about, is it delivering value or is it the interpretation of that? For us, this is the issue that we have. We need to move from transactional facilitation to deal creation. Big difference. And delivering greater value through targeted buyer servicing is one idea that the industry is not considering. We can't because we prioritise vendors. We get paid by vendors and we develop and learn how to find and deal with vendors. That's what we all do. That's how we're trained. That's how we understand we exist in this world. So when you consider that concept, easy concept to understand, very difficult concept to actually execute. I'm not saying it's a silver bullet, but it's a possibility that the industry is totally ignored. And if there is a reason why we're continually appearing on the list of the most untrusted industries, it's because we are confused. Consumers are confused because we're confused. Natural. But what we do is we highlight the star agents and say, they'll sort it out for us. They won't. They won't. They're interested in vendors doing deals, not who works around them. That's not their interest. Once you find out, or once you decide what it is you're going to do, whatever that is, whatever businesses choose, then and only then can you put technology around that, bring in technology to help you, and then decide how and why you're going to educate and develop your people. Only then. Because at the moment, if we're doing that and not changing our idea about who we are, it's going to be the same situation again and again and again. And what happens? Fees just go down. Because that's what they're doing. They're going down. And this is important because we want more people in the industry, we want good people in the industry, and they need to be guided, and they need some advice and mentorship about what actually it is you are doing. And if it's the same thing all the time, you're coming in and all you've got to do is you've got to find as many vendors as you possibly can, expect the same outcome. Because buyers are completely ignored. Completely. And until we are prepared to address that, be honest about that, and actually do something about it, it's going to be the same outcome, because the buyer's expectations and society's expectations are going that way, not that way. So this ain't going to get any easier, it's just going to get harder and harder and harder. If you are to make a change, or if we're going to make a change, it's got to start there. There's no point coming up with systems, there's no point coming up with tech, there's no point coming up with software, unless you're prepared to change at a leadership level and address the cultural blockages that we have. I think that we're going to find it very difficult for any meaningful change ahead. Thank you, John. Thanks, Shannan. That's just my perspective.